Welcome to the part 3 of the series for tutorial for Eclipse Studio. Today I'm gonna go through objects. As you can see, there are 6 tabs here and some options here, so I'm gonna go through them one by one. First tab, objects. There are 2 different modes for objects. You can add them and edit them. If you go to add, you also have placement mode, which is free. Actually, free would follow terrain just as well. As you can see, this is a bad example. I'm going to use the same building I always use. As you can see, it's still following terrain. However, rotation is pretty much the same. Right here, right here. And if I were to use follow terrain, it would curve depending on how I put it. Of course, with objects you can simply interact by holding down mouse. You can move them around by moving the pivot or gizmo. You can move them in desired directions however you wish, and you can rotate them with the green one. If you hold control, you'll get this option, and with it you will be able to scale, but as you can see, it does not work as it should. Just gonna delete these. As you can see, by doing this you can also invert the model, and because I'm still in edit mode, whenever I hold control things will be quite weird. So for that we just go to edit mode, and at that point we are no longer able to edit these just like that. As you can see, this is the forward face. Hold control, it just won't go anymore, but it will in add, but yeah, as soon as you go to edit, it just resets scale X to 0. So it's not something you can, it's not something you should just use, because most objects are pretty much well scaled, so there will be no need for scaling them more. Okay, back to add. You also have different kind of object types: light mesh, sprite, building, and vehicle. Buildings are basically every model. For example, if I were to put in church and if I were to click it, you can see that object type is object building, but same thing would happen if I just type default. If I put it as a light mesh, now you can actually see that it is a light mesh. However, if I go to edit, you can see that it has an actual light that you can edit. And this is what would happen if you decide to kill that light. No other difference from this to any other. Okay, back to add. Sprites are something that faces towards player no matter how you look, and objects that are 3D should definitely not be sprites. I hope I'm clear on that. As you can see, this is not something you should do. And vehicles, of course, they obviously have to be vehicles. Now I'm holding control, but I cannot spawn this unless I go to vehicles and put in a drivable striker. And if I were to press F8 now and get in game, I would be able to drive this vehicle. And I've just made a bad thing. I have to spawn the vehicle back, and I can't do that. And yeah, you should be careful with this. This is today's lesson. Always be careful with Studio. Whatever you do, it will probably crash. Back to test map. There we go. We're back in. Just checking stuff. Okay. Okay, that's pretty much it for object types. Over here you have the list of available folders which are in your objects depot. This is it. This is what you see here is what you get here, and you can find the content of those folders right here. Jungle Boat. You can add all kind of different objects. Okay, I'm gonna spawn town buildings. Why not settlement? Okay, I spawned an object, and as you can see, it's not properly aligned vertically. So you can either, now we're switching to edit mode. You can either pull it up with the gizmo, just like this, or you can actually manually position it in position Y. Position Y is up and down, position X is the red arrow, and position Z is the blue arrow. Now, detail object has pretty much absolutely no function whatsoever. Rotation X, of course, is rotation on horizontal rotation, and there are two different rotations for each way, so you can set the model however you want it to be. You do this by pushing your mouse up and down. You can do this by pushing your mouse left and right, and this is also up and down. And of course you can simply just drag these sliders however you want, and it would have the same result. Scale, that's pretty much self-explanatory. You can make it really thin. This is actually funny. This is quite funny, yeah. Look at this camera, it's like 2D sprite. And you can make it really big. Now look at this camera, it's badass. Let's revert it back to 1. Bullet pierceable, it depends. Basically, if you put bullet pierceable to 100, spawn yourself in game. And if you were to shoot, it would also, basically bullets would go through this. You can see that, but that's pretty much how it would end up. Now back to edit mode. You can enable player collision only, and it would now display only the wireframe mesh for collision without actually rendering textures, and enabling physics or disabling it will actually cause this. You can go through the model. And why the hell is this object now invisible? Yeah, great. Also, with minimum quality you can actually edit for some objects, which I really don't recommend, is putting minimum quality on different settings depending on how detailed you want your map to be. Maybe if you add all kind of rubble, rock, maybe you could put that to high or medium, so players with the low end PCs won't be troubled, but it won't give those with good PCs much of a advantage. You can destroy and resurrect. That is basically let's add another model. Okay, there we go. If you create destruction parameters, which are in the damage library, the third tab right up there, then you can make it so the item can be destroyed whether you shoot it. It will just change to a different model, show a different effect depending on what settings do you set up. I'm gonna get to that later. Object tint, that's pretty much self-explanatory. You can just make it black, green, whatever color you want. That's pretty much it for the basic objects. Now there are a few special objects in Eclipse, and these are the lights, particles, and gameplay. As for gameplay, you have the player spawn, which is this white thing, and if you go to edit, here you can actually add, god damn it, you can actually type locations, which would actually make, these are the player spawns. If you check the location and you click it, you can actually move the player spawn wherever you want and rotate it just like here, like that. All objects for gameplay are flagpoles. That's it for player spawn, and now here's the item spawn. I'm actually gonna add items to this building. This does not matter where you put it. You can just put it anywhere you want. I'm gonna put it, I don't know, here. And now you go to edit, you click it, and as you scroll down you actually see different parameters. Tick period is how long the object will be there. No, how long will it take for it to spawn. The cooldown is how long it has to go after someone takes it. You can put it to 1 second. And despawn is when the item is actually there, how long will it take for it to despawn if there are players in the area. You can also configure one item spawn, and then you can change the item ID if you want this particular place to spawn that particular thing. Otherwise you can just change and use the loot box you want. Loot boxes are configured in SQL, and you need an entry in items database for it to link. Of course, just like with the player spawns, you add locations by clicking add location button. You press the location, you look at somewhere, hold control and click. You can just do that with all of the locations. Of course, when you place one, you just have to hold control and click again. You can just move them around as you wish, and I don't know, there it is. And now basically items would spawn. This many items that have, hold on, these specific loot table would spawn around this place. That is it for items. Now let's move to postbox. Postbox is the safe zone. Ambient sound is pretty much self-explanatory. It gives away sound. I don't know what reverb zone is. I'm not quite sure about that. And well, permanent note, it will, well, drop a note wherever you want it. And zombie spawns is for zombies. Now let's go to edit. With this thing you can actually define what sound you want to play. As you can see, start time, end time. For example, if you want to have crickets at night, you can just set this to go from 10 to 4 AM. Master volume, minimal 3D distance, so you can actually define how far or how close someone has to be to hear this, and then you can just configure what sound you want it to play. I don't know. Here, if I were to put flare loop and I wanted it to only play from 5 to 6, wherever I'd be in this particular time, I would be able to hear it. And this is pretty much it for the ambient. Now for the pulse box. There aren't much objects for this. You can only set the safe zone radius, which is maximum 500 meters, or you can actually make it really small or non-existent at all. It's a circle, and that can be changed. Next, the permanent note. As you can see it, it's like right here, and then you have to put the string ID, which I'm not quite sure how to put, to be honest with you. And well, you don't need those. Zombie spawn. There are different settings for zombies just as well. Spawn parameters, maximum numbers of zombies that will spawn in this green area, the number of zombies that will be sleepers, spawn delay and spawn radius. You can make this spawn across a very large area. Now there are number of fast zombies and speed variations, but these aren't really affected in the old version. Zombie census parameters, minimum detect radius, maximum detect radius. That is pretty much self-explanatory. Zombies to spawn, you can decide what type of zombies do you want to spawn. Maybe if this were a military area, you would want to spawn zombie military and maybe zombie man and stuff like that. Now going down to loot boxes. These are for defining what items can zombies drop. You just have to click this and the zombies will drop money, or, well, money is right here, or anything else. Now we can just delete this. This is it for the zombies. This is music area trigger. It's pretty much self-explanatory. When you move into this area, it will trigger a sound. Now, I don't know, let's say I want it to trigger put this to 10 meters. I want you to trigger well, RPO single, I don't know why not. And apparently this doesn't even work. Maybe there's a chance for it to work. I honestly have no idea. Oh well. And now for the last thing, this is the music trigger area. Same thing as the other thing, I think. Yeah, it's the same thing. This is it for gameplay. Particles, well, that's pretty much self-explanatory. You just select particle and you can add it to the map. This is the dust particle. And it creates a dust layer of dust. I guess a good thing would be maybe something like scaling it. Oh, scaling doesn't even work. Great. And you can actually pause it. Wow. Basically, there's nothing to do with those. You can just put them in the map. Lights, Omni, which are pretty much the kind of that goes all around the place. You can edit settings right here, like light radius. Oh well. This is the most important part. Outer radius, inner radius, how you want it to be, color of the light, intensity of the light, and now with this you can make it so it casts shadows. The best example would be to put it somewhere right here, and if I were to enable cast shadows and actually put my shadows and lightning to medium, it would actually throw shadows just like that. I can just move it around to show you better, and they are real time. And I'm gonna spawn myself in. As you can see, it will also cast shadow for me, although they are very low quality for some reason. I'm gonna test out with options. Oh, there. On shadow quality really high, they are a bit more detailed, and these actually look quite good. Okay, so this is mainly it for the light, that is Omni. Let me just change settings back to something I can manage. Next one we have Spot. This is the spotlight kind of light that does exactly what it sounds like. It's a spotlight after all. You can rotate this depending on what kind of light you wanted to throw away. And of course, in the edit options you can again define the color. Now AW shadow offset, well, it's kind of hard to say what that is. Inner radius and outer radius, they are self-explanatory. They're same for everything. And now there's for the blur and cone settings. How big do you want this cone to be? Of course, inner angle and fall of power. With something like this you get Arma 2 flashlight. You can also freeze shadows if you want them to be static, and well, this doesn't really do anything. You have options, all kinds of options here, but as you can see you can't really modify them. Okay, let's delete this. Tube. As you can see, this is a very weird kind of light. Again, you can set the options however you want, although as you can see it doesn't really affect much. And you can't really do much. Don't use this. Plane. This is planar light that will only show across the plane, obviously. And again, you can decide what kind of light properties do you want this to have. For example, this is good if you have neon lights, then you can make shadows on the floor that are something like this. And the last one is volume, which is, well, as it says, a volume light that has its fall off and things like that. Really close is really bright. We don't want it to be that bright, so we can put this to very low. And if you, as you can see, if you put this to 0, you would basically get a fog, a really thick fog, that will be visible from all across the map. At least it will have that kind of effect. Now, again, you can configure the color, everything. That's pretty much it for this. Now we are in group mode. You can define groups and then add groups. For example, here is the plane crash group that shows, well, displays different models that are being used. Again, with a group, you can actually go to objects and select each file on its own and do with them whatever it is you want to do with them. You can, if you want to create a new group, for example, I don't know, let's add another settlement building like this right here, and I don't know, this right here, then you can select all 3 of those models, go to groups and add new group, push selected objects to group. As you can see, the no name group would be here, and then you can change its name, settlement, and there it is. You can just inject it into the map and do whatever you want with them. Of course, to edit them you have to go back to objects. That's universal. I even made a campus city group that would really copy the whole campus city, and now I'm expecting huge lag because they have to load. And well, after some time that it took to load, I can actually just click wherever I want, and there I go. I just copied the whole town just like that. Please deselect everything, thank you. And as you can see, it has everything that campus had, because as I just mentioned, I just copied the whole map, absolutely everything from campus. I don't recommend doing this if your PC is so-so, because this surely does take quite a bit of power to process. So that's just a warning. And that's pretty much it for the groups. Damage library, as I've mentioned before, you can set objects to be destroyed depending on whether you shoot it. You can actually set it to have a certain amount of hit points, just like you do. You have 100 and you can set objects to have, depending on, from 0 to 100, depending on how you want them to be. T-camo, as you can see, it's pretty much blank. Utilities, you can't really do much from here. You can dump textures and you get statistics of what kind of textures are being used on your map currently. and what textures were used before. We can just close that. Show visibility grid. This is to define the map. As you can see, calculate visibility group. Won't do much. Okay, and then you can just hide it, dump profile data, highlight shadow casters. This is pretty much it for debugging, so it's not really useful. Now you can also save camera angles and stuff like that, but that's not really used. You can just, like, if you want to edit certain objects from different sizes, you can go to here and then just save your camera spots. And well, this is pretty much. One more thing you should pay attention to is snapping. You can angle snap, and then you will be able to click right here to decide what kind of angle do you want it to snap on. And now let's try putting this sign, and if I wanted to rotate it, I would be able only to rotate it in 90 degrees. With this in 5%, and without it, it would be just free rotation. Same goes for moving. You can decide how many cells do you want it to be, and then you will be able to see this big pink cell of how big those boxes actually are. Time of the day, self-explanatory, and speed is the speed of the camera. As you can see, it makes a big difference. And well, that is pretty much it for this tab. So in next tab I'll go to materials, although there's nothing much to go here, so I'll probably skip the environment as well. Thank you for watching, hope you've learned something new, and see you next time.